So welcome everybody. I want to thank you for being here, and I want to let you know that we appreciate it. Normally, I talk about removing all the note takers. This is a challenge. Normally, we're presenting solutions. So we have presented challenges before, but they're not regular. And we have about 24 note takers, if not more. So I am going to allow them this time. But please don't make a habit of it, because the idea of the forum is to be live and interactive. That is where we gain the information that we're trying to capture with these forums. It's that exchange, that verbal exchange that gets people thinking differently and gets their mind working differently and finds those connections that we wouldn't normally think of. So with that being said, I'm going to talk about, the forum. Not much has changed. We're still moving forward with the platform. We're working on the pilot. I haven't had anybody volunteer yet for working inside the demo version of it to help us work out any of the bugs. So if you have a collaboration that you would like to put inside of the platform, please let me know, or a consortia. We're looking for about 4 or 5 different collaborations just so we can test the communications and all that kind of stuff are working. So please reach out to me via email. All right, so I'm going to share today. We are talking about brown tree snakes in Guam. So these are an invasive species. And the reason we're here today is that it's going to take more than just a single piece to come up with an implementation and a full solution on how to deal with this challenge. There is a lot to it that I didn't realize when I first got into this. These snakes are creating extinctions and dwindling populations of native animals. They are wreaking havoc on the power grid, and there have been multiple things that people have tried, but the reason everyone is here is to figure out what we're not seeing, what it is that we're missing. Where in other sciences, in other technologies, could we find solutions? Some of the things that I have looked at and I've invited people to participate is fiber optic sensing, where fiber optic cable is used for pressure sensing. A company that provides that security service for perimeter security is actually looking into whether or not the weight of a snake would trigger the sensor. And then what do you do after that? Is there a way to put some sort of an RFID tagging system on quadcopters or octocopters? Before this, we discussed sound and okay. So back to what we're trying to do. We need to look at, is there a way to get a quadcopter with some sort of an RFID tagging system? I know in the medical industry, there are devices that are in pill form that people can swallow that go through the digestive tract that measure things that are then recovered later. Is there a way to introduce that into the snakes? Because, it's a week or more for a snake and Tiffany can correct me on this, I believe, but a week or more for a snake to actually digest its prey. So that could give you a week to find this thing if you had a tag in it. What kind of technologies are there out there as far as AI, and how could you simulate or not necessarily, a digital twin might take some time, but how can you use the data that's there and figure out what can and what may and may not work, or what fields, what sciences, what technologies we should be looking at that could be incorporated into this, like the fiber, like sound, vibration. Is there a way to hurt them? There's so many different things that we can talk about here, and that's what I'm hoping to capture. So I'm hoping we have a wide enough variety of sciences and technologies represented here that we can accomplish that. So with that being said, I'm going to turn this over to the Central Florida Tech Grove, and they can discuss what it is that they're trying to do. They'll talk about their 1.5-day event that I will also be at, which is in Orlando. I believe it's a hybrid event, so you can also access it via Zoom or Teams, and we'd like to get as much participation. We did one of these for wildland firefighting I was part of. It was very successful. So one more thing before I go, does anybody have any questions? Any ideas that they'd want to discuss ahead of time? Okay, then last thing that I want to get in here, because not everybody is a regular for these events. If you have a question, put it in the chat, raise your hand when you have the question. We want to address it at that point because other people might be thinking about it, and we don't want you dwelling on your question and missing what we're talking about in the following conversations. So please raise your hand. I will stop the presenters and we will address your questions as you have them. So thank you, everybody. And I'm going to turn it over to Casey.
Hi, everybody. My name is Casey Kirby. I am the program manager here at Tech Grove. Along with me, I have our operations manager, Angie, and we're in charge of putting this effort together to try to come up with some solutions in an innovative way. As far as our slides go, I'm going to present some slides just to give you guys some background on the brown tree snakes in Guam and what our innovation day is going to look like. We also have Sarah here that is with us, and she's been in charge of really putting this innovation day together for us to make sure that it's successful and we're getting the outcome that we're looking for and what our partner's looking for. So I'm going to present the slides and I'm going to let Sarah take over.
Great. Thank you, Casey. So I think the really important thing for people to understand about the brown tree snake in Guam challenge that we're looking at is we're not looking necessarily for people that have an experience in invasive species. What we're looking for are people that have technologies that they can bring to this challenge. As far as the expertise on invasive species, we have phenomenal research and background that we'll present you with. And we have lovely people like Tiffany Doan on this call. Tiffany, can you say hi? Because I know that there will be some questions about the snakes in general. And could you just give a little bit of your background and then I'll dive into the tree snakes in Guam?
Yes, hi, I'm Dr. Tiffany Doan. I'm a herpetologist, so I'm a snake expert, and I've been working with the military on other projects, and I also have been working with invasive species. And so I am one of the subject matter experts to answer any questions about the snakes themselves, their biology, how they work, anything like that.
Thank you, Tiffany. So our goal in this is, and we're going to tell you a little bit about why this challenge is such a big deal, is to find out who in the group can come together and then in working together be able to move towards some sort of solution for this problem. So the brown tree snakes in Guam, why is this such a big deal? Well, they've been there about 70 years and there is an incredible loss from this, right? There's $4.5 million a year in damages from electrical outages, different pieces like that. there's ongoing threats, and we'll tell you a little bit more about the ecosystem loss. Important to let you know is not only is this hosted at Tech Grove, which is in Orlando, but it'll be a hybrid event. So we'll have a portion that's virtual and a portion that's in person. It's sponsored by the Defense, or by DARPA, which is like the longtime innovator in defense research, CERTIP ESTCP, which is the Department of War's ecological land management effort, and the U.S. Marine Corps. Casey, can you go to the next slide? So who are we at Tech Grove? Tech Grove has a really unique role in this. We have what's called a PIA, a Partnership Intermediary Agreement, right? That allows us to help facilitate innovation for DARPA, CERTIP, and the U.S. Marine Corps. It allows them to be able to get research, get input, in contrast to the typical fashion of putting forth an RFP. And you look at it, sometimes it's really well written and you understand and you navigate that with experience. This allows us to be able to open this type of problem set to people, some who have worked in this defense federal area, and for a lot of people who have not, right? So the challenge allows you to get voice of customer, to test and try your technology, to team with other people, and then with the challenge, there's prize money and possible pathways to procurement for the companies that participate. And that's important for you to know. If you've never done business with a federal agency or with an agency in the defense arena, this is a challenge and a process that's designed for you. Casey, can we go to the next slide? Awesome. So the brown tree snake was accidentally introduced to Guam after World War II, right? And there were no snakes on Guam. So the species that were there, the birds, the various animals, they were not used to this type of a predator. Oh, and the snake had no natural predators. So initially, people didn't realize it was there, but without a natural predator, what happened is the snake began to multiply. And by the time they realized that, it was already well entrenched into the natural ecosystem. So what you have now, go ahead to the next slide, is, yes, this one here. So on Guam, no strong predator. No strong predator, and it impacts the citizens who live on Guam, right? And it impacts the military in the defense that is there. So, and then the challenge with this space is because Guam is a hub for transport. A lot of things go in and out. Not only is Guam impacted by this, but you'll see with some of the numbers that Casey has put together is that other islands connected to Guam have also faced a threat. So what's happened at Guam now? 9 out of 13 of the bird species that were native to Guam, 9 of them are gone, right? You look at the vertebrate, various other animals that no longer exist on Guam. So the impact of the snake is completely decimating the natural, the animals, the birds, the population, the ecosystem that's on Guam. There's been lots of attempts to do something about this, right? But per acre, just imagine this, per acre, numbers have been somewhere between 20 and 50 snakes per acre, right? Maybe you are a person who loves snakes, and that's awesome. But 20 to 50 snakes per acre, that's a lot. The So lots of birds disrupted. So $4.5 million in power outages a year, several $1,000,000 in attempts to mitigate this. The threat that this could impact Hawaii, could impact other neighboring islands, right? Oh, and then the snakes are mildly venomous, which means as an adult, maybe not so much of a threat, but for small children, small animals, pets, snakes are found in houses. They're found in various buildings. During rainy season, like now, they like to get up. They're secretive, so they move at night. There's just so much about this that makes it a devastating impact for the population on Guam, whether it's in the animal environment or it's the people that live there. Yes, snakes enter homes, buildings, cargo areas. The military then includes infrastructure, cargo inspections. There's all these attempts, and it's still a problem, and it's been ongoing. So the goal that CERTIP and U.S. Marine Corps and DARPA have is that maybe if they turn this upside down and they ask people who are not used to being in this space, maybe this group, the people that will show up at the event, will see something different. Now, in this, you can see Casey has the number. The potential impacts if the snake moves from Guam to Hawaii, $593 million to $2.1 billion. That's huge. So we have some sponsors, DARPA, U.S. Marine Corps, CERTIP/ESTCP, that are very motivated to solve this problem. And so they've done a couple of things. If you can be there, if you can join us on June 4th, virtually, you will have a complete briefing about the reality, the situation as it exists today, about the snakes, what their habits are, where they live, how they populate. You'll have, you'll hear about what things they've had some success with, what things have had no success. So you'll have a full briefing on this challenge. If you can be there in person, not only will you have a full briefing on the challenge, but you'll have the opportunity to participate in the problem-solving situations that we're going to go through, the workshops. You'll also have the opportunity to connect with other entities that are there. Maybe your company has a certain part of the solution. However, you need a sensor, or you need a drone, or you need a different type of platform to be able to have an end-to-end solution. So the goal of what we will put together is to help facilitate that teaming exchange. Now, so you come to this event, you learn about whether virtual or the morning session or hybrid for the day and a half. You learn about the snakes, you find out what's going on. You heard me say something about challenge and possible procurement. What does that look like? Well, that looks like after we have this event, this will be posted. We'll put together this criteria online, right? And we will ask you to submit a concept paper. How would you solve this problem? There'll be a deadline, a submission date. Those concept papers will come in. We'll have some a rubric so you know what's expected in there. What are the questions that you have to answer? And there will be what we call a down select. So let's say we get 30 concept papers. What if we get 50? The top concept papers will be chosen. And then those people who have that solution will show up. And the top 3 will receive prize money and have that access to possible procurement. That means somebody could give you money to do this. Now, what are the prizes? Because this is a big problem and people are motivated to solve it, the prizes for those concept papers are for first, second, and third, $250,000, $200,000, and $100,000. if you are a small company, if you're looking to innovate, that is like getting a nice friends and family or seed investment check to move towards solving this problem. So our goal is to help our clients, CERTIP, DARPA, and U.S. Marine Corps, to be able to have real interaction with people who are thinking differently, and to help you as potential innovators get as much information as possible so that the concept papers you submit will be the best that they can possibly be, and move towards helping a solution be developed on Guam. If our clients could wave a magic wand, what they would love to see is to be able to remove brown tree snakes from Guam and begin to repopulate the island as it was before the tree snake was there. So I'm sure there's some questions about brown tree snakes, maybe some of what's worked, acetaminophen, some autonomous robots, different types of traps, those types of things. So we're all here to help answer questions and see what types of thoughts that you all have on the subject.
All right. Thank you, Sarah. Brian, you're my idea guy. What are you thinking about?
I've been researching the brown tree snake and how they climb power poles and they get up the sides of buildings into the attic of houses. We manufacture basalt composite fireproof power poles on the East Coast. And I was curious, if we did 24-inch diameter power poles in Guam, you could strengthen the power grid to storms and keep the snakes from climbing up. We also do specialty concrete mixtures and ceramic cements that could be used for retaining walls and fencing to keep the snakes from climbing up fencing. But I would like to ask specifically, with the high financial damage to the island, is it the snakes climbing power poles? Are they getting into the electrical boxes? Are they getting into the generators? Like, what's the big financial damage there?
Yeah, it's all the above, Brian. There's been some studies and some research papers done, and they're getting into those breaker boxes and climbing those poles and just bedding up where there are electrical wiring, and it's causing a shortage and creating the power grid. So it's kind of all the above with all of those things that you just mentioned.
It sounds like
the heat that's attracting them.
And then you're also using Tylenol inside the mice, dropped probably with the Black Hawk helicopter. Is that commonly done, or was that only experimental?
I can answer that one. So that it was done, and it's not commonly done now. It was done. It is successful. It's just hard to do at scale. So it does work, but there's no way to do it enough that, we can get enough of the snakes.
That's what I said.
Ed, I also brought up that question as well, burying the power cables underground like we do sometimes here in the United States. But that was also a question that me and Eugene were talking about, like the rainy season, if that would affect anything, burying them underground, and how far you'd have to go underground, to keep the water out. So that's a good one too.
Yeah, just Casey, when people put things in the chat, I always ask them to ask their question. Just a note. All right, Alan, what you got?
I don't know much about these snakes. I'm going to ask some just general questions. Do they normally prefer to live in trees?
Yes, they are arboreal. They're in trees. The thing about these snakes that is really crazy is because they have killed all of their prey, like all of the birds, all of the lizards are gone. So now they're acting very strangely, not like they do in their natural environment in Southeast Asia. And so now, even though they are arboreal, they do mostly live in trees, they're quite happy to go on the ground too, because they'll do anything to find food at this point.
Okay. I'm going to ask a very stupid question. Please forgive me. How large are these snakes anyway? Are they like? I'm thinking like I don't know how big are they. Are they the biggest boa constrictors, or are they like regular garden variety? I don't know. It's just snakes no more than 5 feet long or something, and 2 inches, maybe 3 inches in girth. I don't know.
Yes, they are quite long, but they're not that very big around. So it's not like a boa constrictor. It's a skinnier snake. So I don't know the numbers off the top of my head, but the diameter of the snake is more like, a garter snake or something like that. But they are quite long. So they're several feet long.
All right. Well, let's say I'm just going to think about, let's say I had this problem in my backyard and I said, I have to get rid of this stuff. Okay. I have a house in Florida and I have a problem with pigs. So anyway, I have a physics background, but if I were to get rid of these things, and I'm just thinking off the top of my head, and please forgive me for any type of flip response. I'm sorry. I have a public school education. But I'm going to give a flip response. But if I were going to get rid of them, what I would do is I would put up a barbed wire fence, okay, and I don't know, like 10 feet high, and then I'd put rubber trees up, actually fake trees, okay, and I would put poles in there, and when these snakes climb up there, I would have some sort of sensing device to know there's something climbed up there, and then I just zap it with electricity and electrocute them. And I just rinse and repeat until I wiped out the entire population. And that's solution number one. And solution number two is, and I hate to say this, I am of Chinese extraction, ethnicity, although I was born and reared in the United States. And my understanding is that Chinese eat everything. So I was just wondering, do Chinese eat these snakes? Over.
I mean, they should be edible. I don't know that anyone does eat them. It's just what you've said could probably work, but it's just the quantity of snakes. That's the problem. That's always been the problem, is there's so many of them that you could do your solution that you said and that would work, but there's just so many of them. The other thing is out in the forest, they're very, very hard to locate. Even though there are tons of them, they're hard to find. And so detection is one of our biggest problems.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. I would just bait them. What I would do is, I would put up towers, which is like similar to like cell phone towers. They would dual use cell phone towers. I don't know, Starlink towers or whatever it is, GPS units. I don't know. I could have dual use towers with like rubber trees or rubber type nests and have them climb these things and then just zap them with, I don't know, equivalent to a lightning bolt, and just keep doing it until they get fried. And then, I'd open up a stand on the side and sell it on a stick if people were going to eat them. Like I said, I'm sorry for the flip response, but it's just one of those things where you have to see the humor in some of these things. I'm sure it's a big problem. I'm very sorry. Okay. I'm sure it's a very, very big problem. Okay. But, I kind of look for the simplest solution possible before somebody says, Alan, you didn't consider these ideas. You have to come up with these parameters and things like that. Over.
Well,
Hey, Tiff,
no,
I
think
Alan,
that's exciting.
Well, let me jump in here, Sarah, Cass. So no, Alan, I mean that you're in conjunction with other things. So maybe there's a way to incorporate the funnel traps onto the light poles, or something like that. Or some sort of sensor inside the electrical boxes or the transformers that would detect motion or would be able to detect the snake. So that's what we're here to find out is how do we take the things, how do we find the things that we don't know about and figure out if and how they apply. So no, I appreciate your comments about the poll. The eating the snakes has a little bit to be desired, but that's okay. So go ahead, Casey.
Yeah, Tiffany, I had a question. Could you share with us like how fast these snakes reproduce, right? So if it was a situation like this where you're shocking them at a certain amount, rate over time, but how fast are they actually reproducing? And is that a main problem as well?
Yes, I mean, one of the problems is there are approximately 2 million of these snakes in Guam. And so they do, generally snakes don't have a super fast reproduction. But these snakes, because they are tropical, they can reproduce all year round. There's not like a mating season or a hatching season. And they produce around approximately 10 eggs at a time, usually once a year, but they can do it many times a year. So they, like most reptiles, don't have a huge ability to reproduce all the time, but they still are reproducing. When you have 2 million of them, and let's say we kill, I don't know, 100,000 of them, we haven't really even made a dent.
Right.
Well, so I'm gonna share this because this is gonna get people. I want people to read this and look at some of the things that they're doing. They're training dogs to find these snakes. They're using LiDAR and radar and thermal. What other kind of imagery is there that we can look at? I know that there are vibration sensors that can use video to detect vibration over time, and it actually amplifies the vibration in the video. So is something like that, could that be incorporated? And that's why we want everybody that's here to be here, because we want your ideas. We want to know what it is that you work with, what the technologies are that you're familiar with, and just throw out your crazy ideas. So go ahead, Sarah.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. And Tiffany, you might be able to add more to this, but in doing research around this, like pheromones, right? And being able to sense snake DNA. So while we're talking about electrical zapping and poles and being able to climb, even in the bio arena, there could be possible solutions that come from that. Maybe Tiffany, you could talk a little bit about some of those types of solutions that people have tried.
Yeah, so there is a couple of research groups in the U.S. Dr. Rocky Parker is one of the main ones who is leading that effort of using pheromones putting pheromones out to attract the snakes so they'll come to a certain area so that they can be collected. And he had some success with it, and ultimately, I don't know, he kind of gave up because it wasn't successful enough. But I think there could be potential in that. But what his research has found is, it works a little bit, but it doesn't work at a scale that is enough. But certainly that's something that, it could be worked on more because he kind of gave up on it. So yeah, it's definitely a promising area to consider, but also one that hasn't worked so far.
But Dr. Doan, this is Eugene. That rattlesnakes are, I don't know if they're community, but they tend to gather. And so you can find them in broods of 20, 30, 40, 50. Is the same true for the brown tree snakes, or does the environment just not restrict them?
No, that's usually when you have the snakes that den in huge numbers, it's because of winter. They go there and they all stay together during overwintering, like rattlesnakes do. Garter snakes do that up north. But in tropical areas, they don't tend to do that. However, because they have such high numbers, they are together more often than they would be in their natural environment. But they don't aggregate in a way like you're saying, like the rattlesnakes and the garter snakes and some other snakes do. So unfortunately, no.
And so what is the area of Guam, the island Guam, and what percentage of that area are you trying to work within? So obviously there's going to be downtown areas and city areas that may not have large populations, but what's the difference between the unpopulated and populated areas?
I don't know that off the top of my head. I just Googled that Guam is 212 square miles approximately, but I don't the snakes are found pretty much everywhere. I mean, they're more common in the rainforest areas and less common in the urban areas, but they're in the urban areas too. So yeah, but I don't have a good answer for that because I don't know how the human population is spread out very well in Guam.
Okay. Yeah. All right, so I'm going to go, Jonathan. Go ahead. You got your hand up.
Hi, good afternoon. Jonathan Adkins here. Yeah, I had the privilege of spending some time on Guam when I was supporting Pearl Harbor Naval Base some time ago, a couple different times. Beautiful island, Two Lovers Point. It's a great place to visit. But, I'd never even seen a snake when I was there, and I was out and about all over the island. I have some friends that are from there as well in Dededo. But, a couple thoughts here. We're seeing amazing, groundbreaking initiatives by folks in Florida because they have the big snake breakout there, right? And so they're hiring people, if you will, or they are paying them lump sums to come in. Hey, look, and they're making it almost like a big event. Really, it's a huge thing. Snake hunters going out, and so maybe this is a thought. Here's a potential job opportunity. And of course, whatever risk would be involved would have to be communicated. And snake capturers, and they go out and do that. I know that may be a bizarre thought, but hello, we're not talking about a highly venomous snake here, right? I think it's a great. I don't know about you, but if I was kind of one of those guys that lived on Guam, and this is a great job opportunity, full-time snake catcher, and put me up there for hire, and I would apply if that was my venue, if you will. And the other piece is I lived on Oahu for 15 years, and in Hawaii, what was their big initiative decades ago? Let's bring the mongoose over. We want to make sure no snakes are on the island. And so they brought the mongoose in. And of course, there's the mongoose they kind of had a lot more fun than they were expecting. So there's a lot more mongoose on the island than they want now. But what would you have? What would you rather have? More mongoose or more snakes? So just a couple thoughts that I want to share. Back over to you.
Yeah, and those are good points. And to your point about the snake wranglers, I have reached out to people in Georgia that do rattlesnake roundups, where they get people together to round up rattlesnakes and have a big weekend event. And I have reached out to what I call snake wranglers that are working in the Everglades as well. It was kind of short notice. They only had about a week to make it to this forum, but hopefully they will be in attendance at the in Orlando, or at least be represented there for that event, because that's a 1.5 day event, and here we only scheduled this for an hour or two. But no, it is a good point. So what about DLA? Is DLA doing anything? I saw you put DLA after. Anybody at R&D?
To my knowledge, no, we're not doing anything as far as on the snake handling venture, but we or snake wrangling or whatever we want to call it. But to my knowledge, no. There may be other counterparts that I don't know about, perhaps, but not within our purview.
Yeah. So what would you think? Maybe Corps of Engineers, facilities?
Yeah, if I was to think like someone to reach out to within DLA, it almost would be kind of like a facility. So maybe not per se through DLA, but and I'm a contractor as well. But a facilities type position, if you will, or effort. And I don't see why this wouldn't even be an option, as someone or for hire type position or whatnot, or even maybe a permanent position, or 2 or 3 people, since you have millions of snakes. It's like a contract position. Here's a 3-year contract. Here's your job. Go get some snakes, and that's going to be your job. And of course, there needs to be, what's your deliverable? What's your snake count? How many have you gotten? Proof of concept type thing. I don't know. I'm just hypothetically throwing out words or conversation here, but that would be maybe an angle. I see someone else has their hand up.
Yeah, Casey, go ahead.
Hey, Eugene, I just wanted to let you know that Michael Langston just joined us. He is one of the sponsors for this activity, and I just wanted him to introduce himself to the group. He's with Startup and ESTCP.
I'm Mike Langston. Yeah, I work as a deputy program manager within the ESTCP program, and we focus the part that I work with, the division that I work in is resource conservation, and this effort to develop new controls for the brown tree snake is a part of that.
All right. Thank you. Are you going to be in Orlando, sir?
I will.
All right. I'll see you there.
I look forward to it.
Tony, you put something in the chat. I'll get to you in a minute, Brian.
Yeah, I was thinking that a company that does drones would be back to the prey birds, which are natural, but once you introduce another animal, there's another problem, right? But introducing a drone that can trap the snake and then deposit it somewhere where they're going to be completely destroyed. And I know that they're on the ground as well, hiding. They have like spider-like spots now as well. And any of those companies, you could make it almost as a game for the team, right, to catch these snakes.
Yeah.
And with rewards and all that. Yeah. I'm pretty sure that would.
That's a good idea. And we'd have to look at who is doing that. I know biomimicry is really, really popular with creating using animal motions and stuff like that in robotics and I'm sure somebody is working on small devices that could replicate birds. I know they had robotic rabbits that they were using in the Everglades, so there may be an application there. We just need to get to those people. So Brian, before I go to Sarah, did you still have a question? I apologize. Mr. Crawley.
Yeah, a question and a comment. One is the snakes, when they're born, are roughly 18 inches in length, and they grow at least 1 foot per year, up to 8 feet in length.
Okay.
And they're really their only natural predator in Guam.
Yeah, they're really their only
fork-eared owl. And in India, when there was a bounty put on cobras, what actually happened was that the locals would breed cobras for profit. Created too many cobras, and the program was canceled. So you have to be careful on how the bounty program is installed if you're going to do that in Guam.
Yeah. All right, Sarah, you had something?
Yeah, it's especially since Mike's on the call and that whole piece of resource management. So as we've talked about this, and Tiffany, as our snake expert, and our research shows, this one mitigation effort works some, and this one works some, and this one works some, and it always comes down to scale. right? When we're looking at a solution for this, are you expecting like one solution that we should be able to scale and take care of everything? Or would it be realistic to kind of expect that we might have several solutions that together would provide more of a suite to be able to attack this type of problem?
Was that to Tiffany or Mike? Okay.
I'd be happy to comment. I am not a snake expert. I'll say that I have a background in ecology, but not snake ecology. But typically, when we see any predator-prey reaction or interaction, as the prey gets more and more scarce, they get harder and harder to find. And you never have, it's very rare that you have a predator-prey relationship that results in the extinction or extirpation of a particular prey item. They get so rare that the predator population will crash. And that's a classic ecological approach to things. Regarding the specific question that Sarah raised about whether we expect multiple techniques to be used, I would expect that, yes, that's how it will happen, just from my experience in ecology, that rarely is there a silver bullet for anything. But we'll see. Maybe somebody will come up with something that, is a miracle. So, Tiffany?
Yeah, I would say, it's unlikely. I mean, it'd be amazing, as you said, to have a single solution, but it seems unlikely. But as far as the bounty thing, that has been done a little bit in Guam. They have, the snakes are really hard to find, but they have hired people to go out and catch snakes, and they catch them, but there are 2 million of them. So, and in the Everglades, it's the same. The Burmese python problem is huge, and they do have a big program of hunting and prizes. They just announced a new prize, I think yesterday, a $25,000 prize for whoever brings in the most snakes. But it's with a Burmese python in the Everglades, it's really not making much of a dent. It's still worth doing, but this is not a solution to the problem. It's just, a Band-Aid, really, unfortunately. But we hopefully, with all of you guys that work in all of these different sectors, you'll find something that none of us have thought of and find some solutions that actually work at a large scale, as Sarah said.
Right. So is there a possibility, because and I don't know the layout of the island, where you could create a snake-free zone by focusing on a specific area and then slowly branching out from there?
Yes, this has actually been tried. There is a peninsula, I forget the name of it, where they have done that. They've made a snake exclusion zone and they've taken every single one out. It's a small area, but the idea is, I guess, is more of a proof of concept. But they would like to expand it, but it's been hard. You have to have, because the snakes can climb so high, you have to have very high fences. And of course, if you put fences everywhere, then people can't get in and out. And but it has been done. It has been successful in a very small area. And so, yeah, that's the idea, is they would like to expand that. But figuring out how to do that with allowing people to go where they need to go is also difficult.
Now that is an interesting point, because going back to what we were talking about with the fiber optic sensing, is that one of the ways they like to catch like a coral snake. You put up a short wall over a distance, and then a snake hits that wall, but then it'll follow that wall, and then you have a pit that it falls into. So if these snakes can climb, instead of putting fiber optics directly on the ground to sense them, you could technically string a fiber optic cable, and when the snake goes over top of it, it would create more of a deflection than just the weight of the snake. So where you're talking about that the snakes climb on a fence, so maybe we do a 12-inch high fence or a 6-inch high fence with fiber on the top of it. but it'd have to be some sort of a flexible fence that the snake couldn't get through. And then that weight would deflect that fiber optic cable enough. And, so that's the thing. That's an idea there too. We could possibly look at. And this is how this works. You talk about climbing and fences, and then my head goes into some other solution, and this is what we want to try and capture. So somebody's in the chat. All right, Tony. So that's the drone. And and I'll reach out to David Koch. He is the director of DLA R&D, and see if there's anything that they've had to deal with. I can't imagine that, in New Mexico and Arizona, I'm sure they're dealing with tarantulas and rattlesnakes.
Dealing with tarantula.
So I'm sure there's answers there as well that we could find. 29 Palms probably has issues with snakes as well. But see, that's the thing, there's Dr. Doan, if you could, there's 4 or 5 pieces to this. So the first thing we got to do is we got to find them. We got to detect them. Then the next step is we either need to capture them or tag them. Is that correct? We also want to be able to track them, and then we want to be able to remove them. Now, the question, I know that they looked at glue traps, and that's not a good way to do it because it catches other animals. And is there a concern about ethical treatment of the snakes? I mean, obviously, they're saying that if their traps are in water, they don't want the snakes to drown. So where is that line? I mean, if somebody had something that could, a quadcopter that could basically cut a snake's head off, would that be acceptable? Where is the line there for treatment of the snake?
Generally we would like to have a humane kills of the snake, but I guess it's really up to the partners on this case, the startup, DARPA, and the Marine Corps, what they've decided. But I think the problem is so bad that maybe we're not going to worry about that as much. I don't know. Maybe Mike, you have an answer to that.
Of course, we want any euthanasia of the snakes to be done in a humane way, quickly. But okay. Yes, killing and eliminating the snakes is a part of our goals for this. Yes, whether that be through some sort of a genetic technology that would eliminate their ability to reproduce or something, so that eventually they all age out and die, or whether that's through some sort of a trap that kills them. Yeah.
Okay, Casey.
Yeah, Tiffany, earlier you were speaking to the group about, they have pretty much killed off most of their prey. So you said their patterns are a lot different than they typically would be in their own environment. When we talk about detection, has that also changed? Like with detecting these brown tree snakes over there, has their patterns as far as where they're moving, when they're moving, has that also become like a strange pattern when we're talking about, reptiles?
Yes, they're very, very strange, and their behavior in Guam is very different from the Southeast Asia where they come from. But I don't know if detection would necessarily. I think probably in that case, detection is easier than it would have been, because usually they're just off in the rainforest by themselves, hard to find. But they still are doing that, but they're also coming into buildings. They're coming into the cities. And there's so many of them that they are kind of aggregating, not really on purpose, but just because there are so many of them. So yes, I think their behavior has changed, but I would say detection is probably easier, but it's still really, really difficult.
Okay, thank you.
So Casey, Mike, Sarah, Dr. Doan, is there a plan for people from Guam to be in attendance or available for the day and a half? Because that's one of the biggest challenges that we find with innovation, is that we don't listen to the people that are facing constraint and adversity on a daily basis. That we go to some scientists in Norway that has probably never seen a snake in the wild in his life, and ask him to come up with a solution for the people that are living in Guam and dealing with snakes on a daily basis. And that's really, we need to get that into this conversation.
Yeah, Eugene, Michael can speak to that. We have invited some speakers that have firsthand experience, and Michael, if you want to share that.
We have invited a speaker from the USDA. The USDA is the agency that has been actively trying to eliminate snakes on the island, capturing snakes on the island. They have that experience and expertise. This particular individual has been there for over a decade. However, he is right now in the process of moving to a new job in California, but he brings the experience of over a decade in dealing with the snakes on Guam. We will also have folks that represent the military there. And a big part of the program that I work for, ESTCP, is to take things that have been developed in the lab or outside of the field environment and see if they work in the military environment. So we have lots of experience with things that don't work in the military environment. So that's why this program was started. And we're very sensitive to the need to what we call co-produce, or bring in folks who have the experience, firsthand experience with the problem in the geography that it exists.
And what are the opportunities for any of the solutions? So let's say that the fiber optic sensing cable people, they want to say, hey, we'd like to take a stab at this. So, we'll send you a system and you set it up and give us your feedback. I mean, are those opportunities going to be available? Will those be funded opportunities for this trial and error? How are you going to address that?
To me, that sounds like a question that Casey should handle, because that's about this tech bridge process that we're going through. Go ahead.
Yeah, so Eugene, that's what we're going to try to come up with at our innovation day, is having these partners come together. Even if it's an individual that participates virtually, like Sarah had mentioned before, they're going to submit those concept papers, right? And then the team is going to do the judging, and that's how the funding and stuff is going to be decided. So it'll be a first, second, third place prize, depending on what they see and what they want and the ideas, and then potential for an OTA for that. So those ideas will be used if you are one of those winners from first, second, and third.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Sarah, Casey, aren't there also opportunities for people who develop a concept that meets some minimum requirements, but maybe didn't quite make the cut in third place? And can we move to create contracts for promising ideas that didn't win a prize, is what I'm trying to ask.
Yeah, actually, Michael, that's going to be up to you guys. But we did talk about that, and that will be, if you guys see something during that process where we're doing the down select from those concept papers, and you're like, hey, this is really good, it's really close, and maybe if we partner with this, other piece of it, then yes, that could be a solution to that.
So, Brian Crowley, you have connections in Guam. Are those still open?
Yeah, we actually took volcanic soil samples all over the island of Guam and proved that we could do all kinds of cool stuff. But yes, they're open.
would you be able to reach out to your contacts there and get some feedback for us on their thoughts, the people that actually live there and experience this, that you
I
could
could do
share?
that. Yes,
Thank
I
you.
could do that.
Appreciate that. All right. So people that have come in toward the end, Jeremy, I know you missed a lot of this. Did you have any ideas ahead of time?
I missed too much of it to really be helpful. Sorry, I had a lot of conflicts this morning.
All right. So one of the issues that we have that I was hoping you'd be here for is power, since you are DOE. So the snakes they're tree snakes. They climb. I'm guessing they're attracted to heat, and they curl up inside of transformers and things like that, probably for the same reasons. Are these things that DOE has looked at as far as infrastructure concerns with rats and other, tarantulas, I'm thinking are going to be a problem, and possibly snakes? Are there things that you guys have looked at to resolve those issues that may be applicable? One of the things we had talked about was the possibility of putting these funnel traps on a power pole that would catch and hold a snake inside of it. Is there another thing? Is there a reason why they don't bury cables in Guam? Those kind of things.
I don't know personally. I don't know if that's been looked into. I've got some friends that work in the critical infrastructure or electrical infrastructure. I can ask them.
Okay,
if I've got an answer for you, I could follow up on that, but I don't have a direct experience with it.
Yeah, if you could do that, and if you could share this with them, it would be great, because love to have people from DOE, because I'm sure that people are dealing with this, with high tension wires or whatever, and maybe there's something that needs to be done. Maybe the if they're shorting out the wires, maybe they need to separate them by a larger distance. And that could be an easy fix. So if you could, if you wouldn't mind, I'll get you the video for this and the transcript, and if you could talk to your compadres and see what kind of ideas they have and what they're dealing with as far as rodents and other insects and arachnids and whatever infiltrating systems.
I can ask. I'm not aware of any specific projects or any specific workarounds on those, but I know people who work in areas that could touch on that, so I can check.
All right, appreciate that. Because that would be a huge, because Casey put in there $4.5 million in estimated annual losses from power outages. So that could make a big impact. And then if anybody's looking at poles that deter, because like they put pepper inside of cables to keep animals from chewing on them, and they put whatever that I don't know what the chemical is that hot peppers have in it.
Capsaicin.
Yeah, capsaicin. They put capsaicin in to prevent that kind of stuff. So not sure how that would affect a snake, if it would affect a snake. And Dr. Doan, you may be able to answer that.
I don't know for sure, but I kind of doubt that it would affect a snake, but I'm not positive of that.
Yeah, because I know like birds aren't affected by hot peppers. They can eat hot pepper seeds and not have an issue with it. So, but no, I mean, these are the kind of things that you want to get people thinking about, and share this with your coworkers, with your other associates, with people in your network, and just say, hey, I was on this call about brown tree snakes in Guam, and they're giving away almost $500,000 try and find a solution to this, or over $500,000 to find a solution to this. And, what do you know? Who do you know? That's what we're here for, guys and ladies. All right. So anybody else want to run through the names of people that are still with us? Alan, anything else from you?
No, I'm actually Googling ideas about. I'm trying to find out more about snakes. I was looking at ultrasound, but it looks like since they don't have a hearing, they don't hear very well. It seems like the only low frequency vibrations seem to affect snake.
So where are you? You said you're in Florida. Where are you at?
No. I own a house in Florida. I had infestation by pigs.
Okay.
And I think you know a lot about that. I live in the Tampa area.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I thought you had something down here.
No, I don't live down there. I vacation down there.
Yeah. All right. We'd love to have you on the call or on the at the event for sure. Okay, so I want to say thank you to everybody. Casey, Mike, Dr. Doan, anything you want to say before we wrap this up?
Yeah, I just want to say thanks to everybody who's coming. Thank you, Eugene, for allowing us to use this innovation platform that you have constructed. I think that all of the conversations we had today were, fantastic. And thank you, Tiffany, for being here and really sharing your expertise on the brown tree snake. Sarah, thank you for the presentation. Michael, thank you all. And we really hope that this is a successful event and that we do come up with a solution to maybe not, completely get rid of the brown tree snakes, but start somewhere. And thank you. Like I said, thank you all for being here. We did post the registration link in the chat. And we look forward to some of your guys' ideas. That's all I have for the group.
Yeah, I missed Sarah. Sorry, Sarah. I think we all missed you.
No, I think Casey said it.
Okay.
It's it's a big problem, and I love what ESTCP could do. I love what those that care about this, what they could do on the other side of a reduction in brown tree snakes. So for the people on Guam, in the quality of life. Just the thought of 20 to 50 snakes per acre is to me overwhelming.
Yeah, no, and it, it is a good conversation. It's an odd conversation, but I always say this is it things can be simple. Things can be just that simple, and there probably is and are ideas that we're not thinking about that we could figure out. I do have one question for Casey and everybody. So this document that I have that Sarah provided me, which is the executive summary, is that something that I can post for people to review? Because it goes through key takeaways and then it talks about all the different things that you've done and what their effectiveness was, and talks about frequencies and stuff like that. Is that something that I can post?
The executive summary, it's a summary of technologies that have been used in reference to snake reduction or eradication.
Right.
Just making sure. We actually have a number of things. I believe we'll do some sort of pre-brief before people come, so they have some terminology ahead of time. And so that's what our goal is to give you as much information as possible to be able to solve this. Yeah.
But there's a lot of good information in here. Okay.
Yes. what we can do, Eugene, let me take a look at that and see if I can, I'll put several things together so you can have the technology piece. There's also there's a bibliography on some resources that we looked at from behind. Let me make sure we just format that. And Casey, we can add your QR code and your contact information as the program, as the project director here on this.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I just wanted to say one last thing as well as we're talking about this. And I know, Eugene, you touched on it. The big thing here, and we've put this out in all of our, our outreaches, and Sarah and I talked about it. It's like a job posting, right? Like no snake experience needed. We just need people to think outside of the box. We have the snake people. We have the background and the knowledge on the snakes and what they're doing. We need innovators to think outside of the box and help us come up with a solution. So I just want to make sure that gets echoed across the land. No snake experience needed. So I think that that's just one last thing I wanted to touch on.
From the participants, because Dr. Doan will be there in person. And so the ability to ask people, and we'll have some other subject matter experts, the ability to have that direct conversation with someone who has an incredible background with the problem itself, somebody who's been in, people that have been impacted, you'll have that availability. What we're looking for are the capabilities that can then be brought to that solution. So I'll take a look at what I have for you, Eugene, and get the QR code from Casey and put it all together so you can have one package that'll go forth.
Okay, so then two more questions. So the first question is that for the people that are going to watch this on YouTube, for the people that are going to download it from the document repository, is there an email address that you want to provide, or even if it's just to contact us or whatever, so that people can reach out if they have an idea, because they may not know who to reach out to. And honestly, I don't want to field 100 emails if there's. So is there an email address there that you're willing to share? You're muted if you're talking, Casey.
Yeah, we're going to put my email in the chat here, and then everybody can take it down. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. But definitely, if you are interested and you think you might have a solution, please register and share ideas with the team. There'll also be, the goal is to collaborate, right? And you might have this technology, this capability, and you're like, oh, if I could just get this other piece of the pie added to what I know and what I have, then I think I could come up with a really strong idea. And that's the whole goal of this event, is to collaborate, come up with something together, and demonstrate it.
All right, and then last thing, any other asks from the team about, other than the networking, the challenge? Are there any other asks? Okay. So from the audience, anybody, you have anything you want to say before we leave? Sounds good. All right, well, thank you all. Let's see if I can turn on my camera and see if I'm there we go. Much better.
You look great, Eugene. I'll send that over to you. Give me about 5 minutes and I'll put it all together for you. Thanks.
All right. Thank you. Yeah. So I will go ahead and we can wrap this up. Did you want to stay on at all, Casey, Sarah, Mike?
Nope.
Tiffany.
I think we're good to go. Thanks, Eugene. And we have the YouTube links. I think you put that in the invite and everything, so we'll have access to that.
Yes. And one thing that I don't think I asked for from you is tags. So are there specific tags you would like me to add to make this searchable on LinkedIn, or not on LinkedIn, on YouTube?
Yeah, I can send those over to you in an email.
Thank you.
Perfect.
All right.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.